Shenanigans and More. This is your psycho host, Psycho Alex, and I wanted to apologize from the deepest part of my corazon and let you guys know that I'm back. um, this is hard, like trying to actually do these things and like feel like you're not fucking failing, even though you kind of are because there's only 4 views. I feel like it's more because I haven't been like pushing the publicity, I guess you can sort of say. But enough about that. We're back. And I picked. It wasn't the topic I wanted to pick to come back. I was hoping that I would be able to have my beautiful friend Ernest from our last Mother's Day special video for Pride Month. Yeah! But unfortunately, we have been having a lot of conflicts, schedule conflict, and I haven't been able to meet with him and mom and stuff for the really cool interview that I was going to have with them to share with you guys. And so, yeah, there's that. And another thing is just I've been super stressed and tired and overwhelmed. But enough. My thing is just this week's topic, it's hard. Hence the no makeup because I'm pretty sure I'm gonna fucking cry. But Father's Day! Yay! First and foremost, I want to actually send out much love, much respect for all of those dads who are amazing dads, who have been there for their kids and who have taken care of them and taken the responsibility and have been a man and a father throughout your kid's life. And if you hadn't and now you are, props, man. You're working on it, you're doing it, and celebrating dad is a beautiful thing. I'd like to take a minute to shout out to my beautiful brother, who is an amazing dad, and I'm really happy and I'm really proud of him, of being a father of 2 and loving his kids to death, and being crazy creative and being amazing. And it was hard for both of us. So for the fact that you are being an amazing dad, I am really, really proud of you. And even though I don't tell you to your face as much as I should, love you. But yeah, so this week's episode is about dads, and I actually was I haven't even started and I already want to cry. A friend of mine, who I met about speaking about shenanigans and more, actually asked me to talk about what it's like for people once you've grown up to not have your dad around. And obviously that's why I didn't do a funny special one like mom's, because my father is not around. It's not that he hasn't been around entirely, it's just that it's been a difficult relationship, you know, and that's why it's so hard to talk about it. Because it's so difficult to talk about it. We all have different experiences. We all have different fathers, and they have treated us or mistreated us differently. And it most definitely reflects on who you become as a person once you've grown up. We have total absent dads who may have disrespected the women, and have even accused them of that child not even being theirs. And then we also have like the in and out dads who come in and like fix things for a while and then they blow up and then they disappear again. And then of course there's those who have substance abuse or who have other kind of things going on, and that's why they're not there. It's a difficult topic to talk about because, like I said, it varies from all of us, and we may not all be going through the same thing. But at the idea that I wanted to be able to talk to other people, like I'm always trying to do, um, and find out their point of views. But this time, because I just wanted to get back and get started, and because I owe this to my friend, shout out, love, for this idea. Um, I just wanted to talk about my personal experience about how I'm dealing with it now that I'm a grown as woman and that I still have issues. Now, everybody thinks it's funny to say that women have daddy issues, or like they take it to the awkward sexual manner about it, but it doesn't even begin there. You know, at the end of the day, whether you're a man or a woman, or any other gender, you grow up with these identity issues, with these relationship issues with other women or other men or other genders, because of the fact of how you were brought up and the fact of how your parents um, did things to you or said things to you, were not even there or were there and were abusive, and anything that may have happened to you. At the end of the day, that is how you react and how you respond to other people. And I most definitely have always said that I have daddy issues, and not in, again, the sexual weird way that people always like to comment about. Just the fact that, because I haven't for a long, long time like thought to date anybody older than me that way. Um, just because I think it's freaky, but that's just my opinion. But because I don't have daddy issues that way, I feel like I have abandonment issues, and that is one of the things that happens when your parents, or in this case your dad, um, is in and out of your life, or is flaky, or always makes promises and they don't become true. So, to answer to my friend's question, like, you grow up. It depends on the experiences that your daughter's gonna go through, but you grow up, you mature, you grow mentally and emotionally, and in my case now, spiritually, where you find the answers to questions that you have about why your father wasn't there, about why he couldn't do the father daughter dance with you, about why he wasn't there for your 15, and why he chose to be at work because he was a workaholic, or with a partner, because that was more important at the moment, than you. And you grow up with all these questions, and you grow up with all these insecurities about who you are as a person because of that, and if you're a parent now, be mindful about stuff like that, because sometimes you may not do things that you mean to be rude, or to be have favoritism. I know that our parents always tell us they don't have favorites. Listen, sometimes your favorite is not the one that is just like you, and oftentimes that's what it would happen with me and my father, is that we have been so similar, and we can pull each other's hairs, not literally because he doesn't have any. But we have been at each other's throats, all this time, because we're so similar, and it's just always been like, you do something to me, you bet your ass I'm gonna do it back to you. You do something to my mom, who I'm more than obvious so protective of, for you leaving us, or for you cheating, or for you physically abusing her, mentally abusing her, or whatever the topic may be, you bet your ass that I'm gonna be defensive and I'm gonna be against you, One of the things though that, like, always, 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 I know not all women, and if you grow up, it's okay that you've grown up and you know better now, but not all women, but some women talk bad about their partners to their children, to their children about their fathers, And that also creates like a lot of mental damage and a lot of insecurities and a lot of things. Like at the end of the day, the only person you're hurting is your child. um but it creates so much crap into insecurities into your kid's head that later they don't know what might be true, or what who actually loves them or who doesn't actually love them, who has actually been there for them because of that. Now, that's when sometimes things turn, they grow up and they ask you to spend time with their parent, with their absent parent who suddenly becomes available. um and once they do, my dad did it. He would finally have time to hang out with us and stuff, and when he would always talk bad about my mom. And my mom never did. My mom was always like, she didn't tell me he cheated, she didn't tell me the reason why they broke up in the first place. Like, we just basically packed our shit and like left our home. And now that I'm a grown up, or like later when I understood a lot of things, I was just kind of like, he was the man. Like, we were the kids and the wife. Like, why didn't he leave if there was a problem? Why did we have to be the ones to struggle? And then later things came to be cleared about, was because he proposed something absurd to my mother, who was like, I am not going to be accepting you cheating on me and like still pretend to be your happy wife. Like, I'm just not gonna do that. And so, um, there were also different times. It was like 20 something years ago. And his mentality was in a different place. I mean, also he was, 30, or so. So he was very selfish. But my mom never told me, your dad is this, your dad is that, and like, you should hate him, or he's gonna betray you, or he always lies and all this stuff. Like, she never did that. Even if they fought, because we lived in a really small space, even if they fought in front of us, she was never like accusing him of like being a bad father. And it wasn't until like, when my parents split, I was really upset with my mom at some point, because I was like, why are you dating people? Like, why are you seeing other men? Not like she was really dating them, because she was like 27 or 28, something like that. And they would come into my family's house where we were living, and they would like basically like court her in my uncle's house, and we were around and stuff. It's like, not like she was ever alone with them and things. And I would be so mad all the time. I would just be like, why do you have to meet these people? Like, you're gonna get back with my dad and stuff, because I didn't understand the extent to their split, the extent to them like not being together anymore. And so, because she never wanted to have for me to have this bad view of my dad, but he did it all on his own. He fucked up all on his own. When I grew up and I started understanding things differently, and when he started causing arguments with me and my brother, it was mostly with me. We would bump heads a lot, and I was just always challenging him, because it was just, everything just was like very absurd, and he was very selfish, and stuff. And I've I laugh because he left the country by like when I was 16. And so he left saying he only had his son, and it was really heartbreaking and torturing to me, in a way where like, my dad prefers me dead than to like move his pride aside and like understand that I was a teenager. And he, instead of him being the father and like, you know comprehending me or calming me down, he like came down to my level and like fought me, and like, this is my relationship with my dad again. But it's so childish of him to me, especially now that I'm 30 years old, that I'm his age at my time, like at his time, you know. And it was just like, how would you, why would you fight with the teenager and then say that when that's your child? And not just your child, but like your eldest child, you know. I like to believe that I was wanted when they conceived me. So I think we all do, right? But I like, you know, it just kind of feels like we're so much alike, and we have such like, you know, I used to hate feeling like I looked like him. You know, I used to hate thinking that I bite my lip like he does, or that like I think like he does sometimes, or I sound like he does, or just like I when I was a teenager, I like burnt and cut out his face out of like almost all of our family pictures, because when it came down to him being there for me, he wasn't there. And there was other people and other men in my mom's life and my life, uncles and friends and stuff, that were more there, and her partners, you know, at some point, that were more there and cared more about me and my well-being, and being in my fucking graduation. You know, people don't understand that he used to be like, oh well, she got a certificate for like perfect attendance, like big deal, people here get certificates for anything. Yeah, but that to me was important. You know, that to me was important. I worked my ass off in school for him to understand, for me to prove to him, first of all, because the whole reason why, you know, we always get told, we as in like immigrant children, and maybe children of immigrants who were born here too, but immigrant children's like, I sacrificed all these things just so that you could go to school and do better and be educated and other stuff. So those things were very important to me. I focused in school a lot because I wanted to prove to him that I wanted to make him proud, and I wanted to prove to him that I fucking did what he wanted me to do, you know, that I wasn't a mess up. And he, and when our biggest fight before he left, saying that he only had one son, was because I had a boyfriend. I was 16, for fuck's sakes. Like, everybody had a boyfriend, you know, and it didn't mean that I was gonna get knocked up and all of his sacrifices were gonna go to trash because I I got pregnant. Like, I didn't get pregnant. I went to school, I committed, I got accepted to universities. I couldn't go because he wasn't around to help me economically, you know. But I did everything I thought I needed to do to make him proud. And in the end, like, I still felt like I failed because, one, he wasn't here for me to prove it to him and shove that fucking diploma on his face. But also, like, you know, um, I feel like I'm getting off topic. It's growing up with all of these issues, and any feeling that you're, any time that your father would promise to come and pick you up, anytime that he made plans to say that he was going to come and take you out to Six Flags or take you out to dinner or anything, buy you anything, take you to the mall, you know, my dad used to think like, um he the one time that we had this really big argument was because I asked him for $10 so that I could go to the 99-cent store and buy school supplies, because that's how much of a nerd I have been. Okay, and I wanted a school supplies so that I can make my project, because it was so important to me to have this project done. And I was telling him about my school day, and I was telling him how excited about I was about this project, and he just started saying, "You just see me as an ATM. You just think that I'm made out of money, and da 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 da." And obviously, that's not where my conversation was going. He asked me about my day. I was telling him about the stuff I needed to do and that I wanted to do, right? And so anytime that parents, in this case fathers, react in a bad way and confuse you or mistreat you or don't show up, you know, don't show up to your 15, don't show up to school graduations, like, are not there, you know, there's no easy way to put it, but at the end of the day, you grow up, you mature, you understand that it's not your fault that they're not there. Because at some point you even believe yourself that it's your fault, that there's something wrong with you, that they don't love you because there's something wrong with you. And there's nothing, I promise you, there is nothing wrong with you. You know? Maybe mom should have picked a better dad. Just kidding. Love you, moms. But when you do pick someone to be with, and let alone, you think you pick someone you love to have children with, especially when you plan them and you want them, you don't know. The truth of the matter is, you don't know that that's how it's gonna happen, right? But I'm not gonna lie and say that there's not times where on Instagram I'll see posts of, like, I saw a video of a dad who dropped off his daughter at the university, at the dorm, and he saw there was snow and it was too slippery, and so he went to Home Depot or something and bought salt and put it on the alleyway thing where his daughter and other students, but where his daughter was gonna walk, and he did that because he loves his daughter. And that to me would be like going out of your way to make sure that your kid is okay. And it hit me so hard. And this is just like a couple of weeks ago. Because I felt like I'm never gonna experience that. From a father. Let me make it clear, from a father. Because my mom is everything to me. As much as we fight and as much as we clash and we're always complaining about each other, she would hear me say, I don't have money, but I've been thinking of getting this latest lamp for my podcast, and she went out of her way and got me one that wasn't as great as she thought I deserved. And so that's the only one she could find, so she got it for me. And then a couple of weeks later, she calls me and she's like, I found this better one, it's super cool, and this and that and that. And she's like, you want it? And she just thinks about me all the time and knows what I need and will go out of her way to give that to me. And I'm never gonna experience that from my father. And the more that I grow up and the more that I learn and develop, I'm really trying to heal myself from that. Understand that it's not my fault. But it hasn't been easy, to answer my friend's question. But I know that I didn't have it as hard as other people. Because I 10 times over would prefer to have abandonment issues like I do, or like I feel like I do, and deal with a father who had been in and out of my life and was explosive and stuff, compared to an abusive one, or compared to an alcoholic one, who would cheat me out of my money, or and I don't mean to be disrespectful to any of you who have fathers like that and who have hurt you, but I mean it in the sense where I guess I've always kind of thought at least they had that excuse, you know, like if your father is an alcoholic and it's an addict, you know, even though it is under their control, their mental, emotional, or like person, and they have to take responsibility for it, in a way I feel like that's their excuse, you know, that's them and the reason why they suck as dads, you know. um but to me, mine had a dad. He wasn't a great dad. He really wasn't a great dad. He was a terrible one. But he didn't have a mom. So, you know, I guess all of that, if you put all of that into perspective as well, it kind of hints at you, which was something always that my mom wanted me to think about. You know, my mom was always like, it's because your dad doesn't see, you know, your certificates as like rewarding or like important because they weren't not celebrated for him. But that's not an excuse, because I've met men who are devout to their children because their parents were not there, you know? And so, you know, me thinking back about my dad not being there, and that it could have been because his parents weren't there, like, makes me feel like, well, I don't want to be that kind of parent. So why would he want to be that kind of parent? You know, why would he not want to be there for me and like motivate me and stuff, especially with all that like push and excuse to say like, oh, you got to do this, you got to do better, you got to be better than me and take care of this and take care of that, and that's why I brought you to this country, and then you fuck our family up, you know, and then you mess up our relationship by fighting with a kid, with a hormonal teenager, and wanting to be authoritarian. And that was one of the things that was the more most bizarre to me, was that he was always trying to be like, and you respect me because I'm your father. Like, no sir, you do not get to do that, you do not get to say that. See, if my mom were to tell me that, I'd be like, yes ma'am. You know, you have, whether it was right or wrong, she had like did everything for me and sacrificed everything for me to have that. She was always there no matter what, even if on days that she was exhausted, even on days that she was mad at me, she was always there. And now you want to come and say you're just my father and I have to respect you? You haven't been around, you haven't taken care of me or thought of me, like, you know, knowing that if I have a fever or so, when I was a grown ass woman and my mom would call me or just come over and bring me chicken soup, you know, you know how many times when I was first got my car, like, my very first car, like 10 years ago, my dad started giving me classes before we got really really upset with each other when I was like 15. And then by 16 he was gone. Um and so I didn't know how to drive. I mean, he taught me basic stuff. You know, I drove down the street like twice, you know, and in a parking lot like two times. So it wasn't a real lesson, and I was driving an Astrovan, like, you know, I felt like I was in a bubble. Like, it wasn't the same thing as driving on the street and driving in a car or in an SUV or anything. And so, um, my mom doesn't know how to drive, so she couldn't teach me, you know, and I feel like at the end of the day, especially in fucking movies, that's the job of a dad, right? To teach you how to drive. And I didn't have a dad to teach me how to drive. Instead, my little brother, who got taught by a friend who was a significant uh, father figure to him in a way, um, taught him how to drive. So he taught me how to drive. My little brother taught me how to drive because I didn't have a dad, because we didn't have a dad. So, um, when I had my first flat, I was so frustrated and so overwhelmed because I didn't have the right tools, because I'm a fucking girl. Like, I don't know how to change a tire. Like, I didn't know. It was my first car. I had no idea what to do, how to fix it, and I was super frustrated, and it was a hot summer day, and it was just like, what am I gonna do? What How am I gonna get home? You know, and it wasn't like, let me call my dad. You know, if you have that, fucking appreciate it, man. Buy that man a beer. Get him his favorite baseball cap or jersey. Like, those dudes that are there for you, that will, even if they're mad at you because you didn't graduate, even if they're mad at you because you got knocked up, even if they got mad at you at some point because you're dating that cholo that he doesn't want you to date, like, you know, be grateful for you having your dad, even if you guys bump heads. And he, at the end of the day, he buys you a car, even if it's junk. At the end of the day, he teaches you how to drive, even if those lessons include fighting. Like, be grateful, thank your fathers, and hug them and kiss them and appreciate them, because trust me, there's a lot of us who don't have that, and wish we did. Even if it's an argument that is gonna lead to him pouring salt outside the fucking parking lot so you won't slip. Having children and not having one to say, my grandpa. I lost my grandpa a couple years ago, and he was one father figure to me, you know. But everyone, it's always been someone else, and like, it does. You do grow up with trauma. You do grow up with shit like them not showing up, or them fighting with you over $10, um and talking to you. You're like, you're an adult, and like, you should understand what they're going through, even though they're being selfish. Like, that traumatizes you. Yes, you're not gonna trust every man. Yes, you're not gonna be happy in every relationship you're in because of abandonment issues. That's going to happen. Yes. Can you work on it for yourself? Yes. Can you forgive them even if they're not in front of you? Yes. You can do all of these things for you, to feel better for you, so you can have peace in your heart, because you need to know, at the end of the day, it's not your fault. At the end of the day, you did not ask him to be an asshat or to make you in the first place, or to be hurtful to you or to mistreat you. And there's nothing wrong with you. It isn't because of you, it's because of them. um if there was anything that was very life changing growing up, is that when you're a teenager and you start to think you know everything, fun face of life, you come to the understanding that your parents are not the superheroes you thought they were. They're not these amazing human beings that you think they are. Amazing human beings, and they're your parents and they love you, you know, but they are just as lost as we are. And I think that was one of the hardest hurdles in growing up that I had to do, because I thought so much of both of them, even with all the fights. Like, I thought so much of both of them that when I came to realize that he was just selfish, he wasn't doing it because he wasn't taught right. He wasn't doing it, and that's just my point of view on my own father, okay? That I'm still working on and I'm still healing. But, you know, all these things, because he was just as lost. He was only 30 something years old when my parents split. He got married really young because he had to, because society told him to, because he thought that that was the right thing. He had children because he wanted to do the right thing, not because that's what he really wanted, not because he wanted to be a father and be there, or know what it was to be a father, He was learning as he was teaching me, and he was learning as he was teaching you. And you know once you come to that acceptance, and I'm learning with you guys as I'm telling you this, by the way, but when you reach that acceptance that that's who your parents are, just like you right now, I'm 30 years old and I could have potentially a 10-year-old, but I don't. But you might. And if you're a 30-year-old and you potentially have a 10-year-old, 12-year-old, 11-year-old, whatever year old, um, like, you may be lost. You may not know what you're doing. You may not know if this next job is gonna be enough, or if you should move away, or if staying in this relationship, whether it's good or bad, with this baby, your children's mom, or with your children's mom, since we're talking about fathers, um, it's gonna make you happy, or it's gonna make a difference in your child's life. Yes, but one of the things that I have always said is that, coming from a split family, I also believe that parents shouldn't stay together for the children, because adults who are not happy are not going to focus on their children. They're going to focus on the problem. They're going to focus on fighting each other, and they're not going to focus on the children. If you claim your children come first in this relationship, then split and take care of your children. Stop focusing on the problem. Stop focusing on the reason why you guys are not working out together. If that is the case, and if that's done, and if you're done, then split. But focus on the children, because I had a friend who told me once when we were teenagers that she wished her parents would split. And I was just like so dumbfounded, because I was like, dude, I was the opposite. I always wanted my parents to just get back together. Hope it was all a fucking like lie, and that they a really bad fight and they were gonna get back together. And she was like, yeah, but the thing is, my parents stayed together, but they each live in one separate room and never pay attention to us, and they're always fighting each other, and they don't want to be in the same room in the house because they're angry at each other, but they don't want to pay attention to us. They can't come to parent teacher conference because they don't want to see each other's faces, but they're still living together, but they're still in the same house, and they're still married, and they're not paying attention to. So that defeats the purpose of doing it for the children. And so, um yes, again, back to answering my friend's question. Unfortunately, hun, your child could have issues, whether it's abandonment issues, um feeling at fault and stuff, like blaming herself for it, and in relationships, most definitely. Because at the end of the day, men have issues. Most born male have issues with females, um even in like any hierarchy, or like work related stuff, or society in general, because of the fact that of the relationship that they had with their mothers. And same goes for girls and women, who had a bad relationship with their fathers. If the relationship wasn't smooth, wasn't great, then that would obviously, I mean, obviously it affects both of your parent, you by both of your parents, but I mean in the dynamic of like in a relationship, depending on the relationship that you had with the person, the same gender that you may be attracted to, that's going to cause an issue if you have issues with that parent. So for me, as men, I tend to feel like I have to ditch this fool before he ditches me, because more than likely he's gonna leave. And I like brainwash myself to do that so that they don't hurt me, because my dad left me so many times. He literally abandoned me, and I do this because like he kept coming back, and he's my father. But he would leave me at situations where I really, really needed him, including now as an adult. And you know, it gives you this like self-trust and this abandonment issue and trust issues and like feeling like it's your fault and blaming yourself and a lot of crap, and that's gonna happen. So for you, mom, the best that you could do for her is be there for her. um and if this dad wants to be a part of her life, unfortunately, all you could do is allow it. And if he fucks up on her, then she's just gonna learn, and she's just gonna live with that, and she's gonna learn to accept his apology, accept the fact that he could have or couldn't or wouldn't be there all her life or would have, or that he kept flaking or kept leaving or coming in and leaving or picking other people over her, you know, because that's how you feel. When in the end, in reality, he just kept choosing himself. You know, he kept choosing himself over being a father and being there for your child. So we do that. You know, I mean, I'm not a mom, but we do that. Sometimes we want to just take care of ourselves and not be there for other people. I mean, is it horrible that it's on your child? Yes. Do moms do a lot? I mean, there's single dads who do a lot and have really bad moms who flake and disappear or drop from the face of the earth and leave their kids with their father. And props to great fathers. Like I said, this is a Father's Day episode, but amazing, and I applaud you 1,000% of those fathers who are single fathers, or those fathers who are there for their children, who make sure that they have everything, who make sure that they give them everything they have and they can. And amazing, praise to you guys. Love you fathers who are that, you know. But you know, to answer my friend's question, it's gonna be a struggle, and more than likely it's gonna fade. It's You're gonna see that in her relationships, you know, or her trust in men. Um, um, any relationship, whether it's work relationship, whether it's personal, um, friendships and stuff, you know, that's where it's gonna hit. That's where it's gonna be like, I don't know if I can and trust that you're gonna stay or that you're gonna come through or that what you say is true, you know. But again, happy Father's Day. Praising all the great dads out there. Shout out to all the dads I know that are amazing. Mario, Abdiel, um, David, Willie. Gosh, I have a lot of cousins and they're not all fathers, but shout out to all my cousins who are fathers, and I know you guys are amazing. You guys are being there for your children and trying to be as much as you can. Uh Shout out to Juanito who is having a baby. Shout out, love you. And you know, yeah, man. Dads, it's not easy to be a father, you know, but showing up and being there is part of the most important part, if anything, with being a father. If you're trying, you're already doing more than what mine did. And you're already gonna give your kid a better life than that. You know, if you're an addict, if you're struggling, if you have depression and you have things that you can't figure out on your own and you're trying to grow, you're trying to understand, you're trying to get better, props. There is no disrespect there. You know, I'm not saying that you're not trying to get better. It's just like work on it so that you can be there for your child because your child will need you. But happy Father's Day, you guys. Mwah, love you guys. I will be back with more. Shout out to Tony for my beautiful painting. Look at this. Isn't it amazing? Oh, I love it. Mwah. I love you guys. This has been Shenanigans and More, and I will have more. Hopefully, this gets me more likes. And yeah, the attire, I just worked out, you guys. Okay, so, yeah, my bad. But happy Father's Day, everyone. Happy Father's Day to all of you guys. who are amazing. Take your kids to the games. Teach them tricks. Tell them jokes. Dad jokes are the best. Those are my personal favorite, even though I don't have a dad. Yes, I'm always saying that. And yeah, man. Happy Father's Day, yo, and happy Father's Day. I know men hate it, okay? But my mom was a badass dad, okay? She didn't teach me how to play soccer or ride a bike, but, you know, she did everything else. She managed me to get help to get my flat tire fixed. That counts, okay? Even if she doesn't know how to drive. But happy Father's Day to all the badass moms who are mothers and fathers to your children. You are the best. The kids are gonna be grateful and love you and take care of you when you're old and grumpy. And you guys are amazing. Mwah! Happy Father's Day, y'all.